As the 2022 NFL training camp season goes around and every single team starts implementing the type of schemes that they want to use on offense and defense, there's going to be no shortage of player movement going on in the NFL offseason, as well as in training camp and in the preseason. And that's no different with the New York Giants. As this morning, the New York Giants have made a couple of more moves to their roster in hopes to see what these guys can bring to the table and also what they can contribute to the New York Giants in the 2022 training camp and preseason if they have a shot at making the 53-man roster going into the season. And these moves were made on the offensive line as well as the linebacking core. And I will break them down and what type of significant role they can bring to this team and their potential chances to make the roster going into the 2022 season. So what's going on, everybody? This is NYG Jeffy T 3285. I hope everybody is enjoying your Thursday morning. And today I'm going to be talking about the two roster moves that the New York Giants have made this morning. And I'm talking about the first move that the New York Giants made, and that was signing 6 foot, 240-pound, 4-year pro out of Villanova, Austin Calitro, who has played with the Seattle Seahawks, Denver Broncos, Jacksonville Jaguars, and he played last year with the Cincinnati Bengals. Austin Calitro has played in 47 games in the pros. He's had 88 total tackles. He's had 65 solo with 23 assisted, and he's acquitted at least 1.5 sacks, and as well as 2 passes defended over his 4-year career as a pro. And he's mainly been known as a guy that's been playing special teams with the majority of his career. So he's going to be coming with the New York Giants, having the opportunity to maybe carve out one of those roles at the inside linebacker position for the Giants going forward. And in a corresponding move, the New York Giants released linebacker Justin Hilliard after he was slapped with a 4-game suspension during last month. And this is not a surprising move, as the New York Giants probably did not want to wait to see what's going to happen with Justin Hilliard, as he could have been a guy that could have been contributing with this team going into the 2022 season. But I think that 4-game suspension really hurt his opportunity to make this roster. So the New York Giants decided to let him go and see what they can get in a guy like Austin Calitro. And there's no reason that Austin Calitro cannot make this roster, as this linebacking position right now is wide open in terms of the interior. Carter Coughlin was just moved to the interior linebacking position this last year, and he's a guy that's still coming off some injuries. We don't know what we really have in Carter Coughlin. Cam Brown has mostly been a special teams guy as well as an outside linebacker who can bring some pressure off the edge, and he's also a favorite of Thomas McGahee in terms of his special teams presence. We have no idea what Blake Martinez is going to be like coming off that ACL injury. Tate Crowder, while he's had some moments, he's also a wildly inconsistent player and is going into his 3rd year from Georgia. We don't know what this guy is going to be. And you're talking about relying on a couple of rookies like Micah McFadden and Darian Beavers. While we are high on them and think that they could have an opportunity to eventually become the starting linebackers in this position, at least one of them, they still are 5th and 6th round draft picks. And these guys have a lot of growing to do in the NFL and to learn the NFL game. And they have to fix the holes in their game going forward. So there's no reason to think a guy like Austin Calitro can't come into this training camp and preseason and have a chance to maybe carve out a reserve role with this New York Giants linebacking core going forward. So I think it's a very solid move. Not expecting a whole lot from this guy. Special teams guy, potential reserve role player in the linebacking position, but it does not hurt to add competition. Competition is always good for your organization for any position, especially a team that's in the middle of the rebuild. So I'm not opposed to this move at all. And I have to see what Austin Calitro can bring to this New York Giants team at the linebacking position going forward. Now, the other move that the New York Giants have made in terms of transactions this morning is they have signed 2-year pro Garrett McGhin, 6'6", 302-pound offensive lineman, interior offensive lineman out of East Carolina. And in a corresponding move, the New York Giants have signed or have released Kamall Seymour, who they just recently signed as of a few days ago in a transactional move before. So Garrett McGhin is pretty much a guy that has played a couple of years. He played last year with the Jacksonville Jaguars, but was mainly on their practice squad. Didn't really get any snaps during the game. He's going to be possibly another Camp Madi you could throw in there, but maybe, who knows? He can have a chance to maybe carve in some snaps with the New York Giants team going forward. So I'd like to see what this guy can do. Another offensive line body you could throw in there. And who knows? The New York Giants have had a significant they've significantly overturned this offensive line group pretty much from what it was last year, in terms of the interior and as well as the offensive tackle position. So I'm curious to see what this kid could do. It does not hurt to bring more competition in for the offensive line too. Who knows? Maybe Garrett McGhin, second year coming into the league, chip on his shoulder, wants to prove something, can come in here when there's really a lot of open spots on this roster. Nobody's been given anything. Maybe this kid could come in, show something to Bobby Johnson, show something to Brian Dable, and maybe he could carve out a role as a reserve offensive lineman. No, I think this guy is pretty much going to be a practice squad guy. He's already behind the eight ball. The fact that the New York Giants have started training camp, the coaches have already a lot of looks in terms of seeing what these guys currently on the roster have done. So this guy's already going to be behind the eight ball, learning the playbook and everything, learning what Bobby Johnson is expecting from his offensive linemen. But maybe if this guy can catch on real quickly, learn the playbook, learn, the type of blocking that he's going to have to do for the New York Giants offensive line, maybe this guy can carve out a role. But I'm expecting this guy to mainly be a reserve offensive lineman going into. He's going to be pretty much, if he has any chance of cracking the roster, I'd be surprised. I think if anything, he's going to be a guy that's going to be on the practice squad if he could show this team anything. But who knows? He's going up against guys like Jameel Douglas, Max Garcia, Shane Lemieux, Ben Bredesen, Josh Rivas. So he could maybe possibly carve out a role as a reserve lineman. But we'll have to see what this guy can do. We'll have to see what Garrett McGhin as well as Austin Calitro can bring to the New York Giants going into this training camp. And then they were signed earlier, so who knows? Maybe they could bring some type of impact to the Giants in terms of carving out a reserve role with this team. But those are just a couple of the transactions that's happened this morning. The New York Giants have signed Austin Calitro, 4-year pro out of Villanova at linebacker, and they have waived Justin Hilliard from the roster, as well as they've signed Garrett McGhin, 2-year pro, 6'6", 302-pound offensive lineman from East Carolina, and they have waived Kamall Seymour off the roster. So we'll have to see what these two guys can do. So if you like the video, please hit the like button below. Subscribe if you haven't already to NYG Jeffy T 3285 for more news, breaking news updates, and chatters surrounding the New York Giants, Brooklyn Nets, New York Mets, WWE Wrestling, as well as food for thought. Share your comments below on what you think the new two acquisitions, Austin Calitro and Garrett McGhin, can bring to the New York Giants roster, and if you think they have any chance to potentially crack that 53-man roster, or if you think that these guys are going to be pretty much stashed on the practice squad, if they even make the practice squad at that point. And turn on the bell for notifications of the next New York Giant video or short that will drop on the channel. So I hope everybody enjoys the rest of your Thursday. I'm thinking it's still Tuesday. Rest of your Thursday. Take it easy and let's go New York Giants. Everybody together blue.